Hi, I want to welcome you all here tonight. If we can get started. I want to introduce myself. My name is Brittany Edwards. I'm the president of the Graduate and Professional Student Assembly. Our group is the governance body of the graduate and professional student population on the Twin Cities campus and in Duluth. And we have a whole host of co-sponsors who I will talk about in a minute. But first, I just wanted to introduce and frame the event a little bit for you guys. So this event came about because of a class that a few of us on the board took last spring, or winter, I guess, called the Finding Common Ground Forum class. It addresses grand challenges around contentious issues, and so the format for that has a panel, a World Cafe, polarity mapping, and idea generation. We took that and altered it a little bit to address the issue of higher education. We tried to think about how we could discuss higher education in a way that was meaningful. One of the points of this is to experiment with ways to engage in a democratic way that are different than maybe the traditional format. I think we see from the government shutdown right now that the staid ways aren't working, and we have new ideas, and why not use student government as a lab to experiment with those new techniques. And so we decided to put a lot of energy into making one of our meetings this semester use these different techniques and engage stakeholders across Minnesota and the university in discussing policy issues ahead of time, you know, kind of closer to the beginning of the year when the faculty and administration, for example, could be brought into our ideas and thinking, and that we could collaborate early on in the shared governance process of the university, but also to do the same thing with the state level legislators and you know, the Office of Higher Education at the state level. And so this is an experiment, and I appreciate your patience with the, you know, the fact that it's an experiment. So let's see. We wanted to also talk about, you know, instead of the extremes of the issues and the extreme outliers being the ones that are heard, we want everybody to have a chance to be heard. And so that's where the World Cafe and the idea generation allow us to get at that. And also the panel discussion is meant to be more of a dialogue than it is people getting up and giving PowerPoint presentations, because I think we're all used to that. And so it's more Bill Maher, less, you know, PowerPoint. So, and then, you know, with the idea generation, part of what we're trying to teach in that is the yes and philosophy in improv, that you don't judge the other person when they have an idea, you try to build off of it instead, and the time for evaluation and assessment is later. And that more ideas always equal better ideas. And so Barry Kudrowitz is going to be joining us a little bit later to talk about how we do that. And then lastly, sustainability. So we were initially going to talk in terms of affordability, but we decided that sustainability allowed us to get at innovation, technology, like how to get at the problem-solving aspect of affordability and how to sustain higher education from now in the future, borrowing from the environmental movement in that sense, and addressing it as a grand challenge, a complex issue that crosses sectors and requires, you know, a certain sense of, new sense of leadership. So, okay, now I need to thank people. So first of all, this was paid for mostly by student fees and also from gaps on MSA, and then also University of Minnesota Libraries help provide the desserts that you see this evening, so we appreciate that help. The event would not be possible without the support and effort of so many student leaders, both within GAPSA, MSA, and across the university. Also faculty, staff, and community stakeholders. The World Cafe was prepared and provided by Dave Dorman and Mary Benasuti, and the visual agenda that you see hung up over there was created by Jen Mine through the Art of Hosting Community of Practice. I've already talked about Barry, but Dr. Barry Kudrowitz from the College of Design is providing the idea generation. Morris facilitation was organized by University of Minnesota Extension, including Kathy Schwantes Mary Jo Fox, and Eric Dunans. Duluth facilitation was organized by GAPSA board members Carrie Noner and Ann Bergstrand and the team up there. We want to thank CHD for the iPads that are at each table that the MSA volunteers are helping. We want all of you to be tweeting tonight because that's part of the way that we're harvesting the outcomes of this event. The Jandrish Center and OIT sponsored and supported the digital and tech resources and various supplies. Citizens League, MHTA, the Minnesota High Tech Association, and the Minnesota Student, like the Minsky Student Association, and the Minnesota Student Legislative Coalition helped recruit stakeholders outside of the university. Lastly, this is a model of open governance, and its content is meant to use Creative Commons. So thank you so much for coming. Now I would like to introduce our panelists. I'm not going to read long things about them because you can read it at your table in your program. However, we have Steve Hine from Minnesota DEED, Dr. Rebecca Ropers-Human from CHD, Kim Thanos from Lumen Learning, and John Moravec from Education Futures, is that what I said? Education Futures. So thank you so much for coming.